Hello, 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 hello. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and good evening. Welcome to WeatherBrains number 563. It's a Tuesday night special. And Brian, don't hang up on us. We're the only three here. I think we're it. I mean, Aubrey, if Brian hangs up on us, it's me and you.
I know that I have show.
Yeah, you got to go do television. So it's I'm just going to be sitting here talking to myself. So I got a note from Bill Murray. He's out. Rick Smith is out. We have no guest. I was thinking this might be the greatest show ever, and it still might be. I mean, traditionally, our best shows are the ones where it's just us talking between us girls here. Because we tend to say some really outrageous things. And if you're just watching us here, this is the pre-show. The actual show begins here in about 10 minutes. Yeah, Brian just hung up on us.
Uh-oh.
Wow. Me and you.
All right.
And since you got to go do television.
We can do this.
We got this. We got this. I've always got something on my mind. Always got something on my mind.
I mean, there's always stuff to talk about, right?
Oh, goodness. I could carry on 100 shows just with my little pea brain here.
Exactly.
Let's see what Brian's doing here. Talk to us, Brian. Uh-oh. You can't.
Hey, Brian.
We're watching. He's responding in the chat room.
Uh-oh.
He says he can't talk with us. What's weird is he doesn't have any headphones on. The question is, how's he hearing us? Mac OS has gone really bad.
So are you saying you should have had a PC?
She needs a PC. We got some words for you. PC. Get a PC. It says hardware issues. Wow.
Has he tried turning it off and on again?
Yeah, let me play the.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Hardware. Well, Brian's got like 3,000 computers over there. He's got like iMacs and MacBooks. He can just plug another one up, you know. No, I want to talk about the. I will probably get us in trouble.
Do it.
I was hoping Rick would be here because I want to know what's the severe weather warning process going to look like in 10 years.
Ooh.
So we turn the clock forward magically. We jump into the future to 2026.
Oh, I don't want to age 10 years tonight.
Oh, but you'll be 39 at that point. You'll be good. But you know, who's issuing the warnings? How are those warnings disseminated? What does the National Weather Service look like? What does their organization look like?
That's a good question.
Well, they have local offices. What does the broadcast community look like? Will we have as many TV stations? And how are people receiving our video products? Is it still through cable and satellite? Is it over the air? Is it IP delivered? And are TV stations all issuing their own watches and warnings in 10 years? I have many questions. I ponder these things late at night when
you're
take
not
my little
sleeping.
2-hour nap. Yeah.
Yep.
And I want to work about 8 more, and then I'll hang it up. I'll retire. But I want to try and work during those 8 years to help. If there's any way, and you know, as Kevin says, maybe the train has left the station. But I would just love to help unify the weather enterprise and find a way where we can have a unified warning process.
No, I think it's something that I think needs to happen.
And we've obviously AccuWeather's doing it. They're doing their own warnings with the Kansas Turnpike thing, and I think some of the local stations in Oklahoma. See, Rick probably knew I was going to venture into this, which is probably said I'm out.
Something suddenly came up.
But see, he can't talk about this. He's in an odd position where he just can't talk about it, and but anyway, we'll dive into that here when the show starts.
All right.
Oh, Brian.
Well, we
Any
see
difference?
Brian.
You're working, man. What did you do?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Ever since I loaded Mac OS Sierra, James, nothing works after it's been up for more than about 5 minutes. But if I start something like Final Cut or I start Amadeus Pro, the hardware works fine. And I'm talking about Mac's internal hardware. The camera won't work in Final Cut. But if I boot the machine and go immediately to Final Cut, the camera works perfectly.
You know, I may have someone.
And apparently this is now extended over into Google Plus, because I was running into a problem. I have to reboot my computer every time I want to record a file in Amadeus.
So how old is this iMac?
4 years.
That should be good.
I know someone who can help you.
Well, I'm open to suggestions.
On the screen share, these are our costumes from Halloween. As Lumberg from Office Space.
Yeah. Andrew from Apple.
Who is Andrew from Apple. And then Greg, my work husband, went as my real husband.
Wow. There you go, Brian. You called those 3 right there, and you got a fix.
My brother, Andrew from Apple, is a tier 2, which apparently means something.
That means he's kind of a big deal.
Can you give me his email address?
I can.
Or phone number?
Sharing. See what I'm up to.
You ought to send him in. He'll know. He's a genius.
Well, I hope so, because last night I reloaded the OS, and that didn't change a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm blessed. This computer I've had for 5 years, and knock on wood, we'll watch it crap out tonight. This will be, this will be the night that it just totally falls apart.
Well, if you lose me, let me know, because I won't know that you can't hear me. So
how are you hearing us? Like just the speakers and the computer a minute ago?
I have my head. Oh yeah, but before I hadn't plugged in my headphones yet. It was just the speakers, and I could hear you fine.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense.
No, this whole problem makes no sense whatsoever. How can something that's working suddenly stop working after you just load a couple of programs? I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but it's what's happening.
I do the help that you were asking for.
Bless you, Obi-Wan.
Well, look at all these people watching us. I figured nobody would be watching because it's a Tuesday night. No, we really haven't publicized this. We have the World Series on, although it's a blowout now.
Oh, that's true.
It's a blowout. I figured that's what
Chicago
Murray's. That's what Murray's doing. He's sitting back in his home theater, watching the World Series. But no, the Cubs are leading. Well, maybe somebody's watching this TiVo in this thing or something.
No, they can. No, if they're watching, they can pause it. Here, you have time to put it on mute.
No, I got it up. Oh wow, I guess you're right. Wow, that is a blowout so far.
So the Cubs are leading 7-0.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm torn. I love Terry Francona. Terry Francona. Terry is
great guy.
He really is, and I'm a Terry Francona fan. So for that reason, I would love for Cleveland to win. But we went to Chicago and hung out with the Cubs a little bit this summer, and have got to.
Isn't Wrigley Field cool?
Magic it is. And
did you see those seats over on the condos? Did you?
Oh yeah, across the street over there.
Yeah, they surround the stadium.
I wonder if they charge for those things over there. So you have to get the binoculars to see down in there.
I think it's the same price as the seating in Wrigley Field. I don't think you get much of a cut, a discount.
So Mike Cox just tweeted, the only way the show tonight beats Addison Russell's grand slam, and there was a grand salami in this game.
Wow.
Is if Span eats Vienna sausage and drinks Buffalo Rock.
We can arrange that.
No, we can't arrange that.
No. Yes, we could. I could arrange that.
No, in fact, it was kind of cool. I was sitting here watching. I've been kind of doing chores and watching I've got on the monitor up here, and that was awesome. They had the bases loaded and a grand slam. That is a childhood dream. Every boy deep down inside has. One day, you play in the World Series and you hit a grand slam.
Yeah,
dreams coming true. Aubrey, for those that are noticing, she is turned from the camera. She is listening, but she is adding a little makeup. And Brian, for me and you, a little paint on these barns won't help us. There's no hope.
I had a lot of paint on today.
This is what I'm using right now here.
Yes.
So I don't exactly. I don't exactly know what this is, but the L'Oreal.
Mine's a different brand, but it looks very much the same.
Yeah, I just mainly I try and get that powder on top of my head so that the glare doesn't come back and burn the camera lens out.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
By the way, I put in an explanation in the show notes as to why we weren't here last night.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is what we're going to do. Is just going to be literally, it's going to be me and you and Aubrey griping. It's going to be a rant for a long time. And I'm hoping Nate. Rick can't make it, which is probably best because I'm going to venture into some issues in which he might not want to talk about.
Are you talking about the evolving NWS?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the
I have some strong opinions about that, but they're just opinions.
Yes.
They're just opinions.
So, absolutely. So I'm watching right now the television side. Once we join our television audience, then we're going to start this show, and this is cool. I don't have to worry about guests or interviews. We just be boneheads here. This is going to be good.
Is Kevin he sent in a POW?
Yeah. Well, again, we're doing this on Tuesday, and it's I don't know. I don't know where Kevin is. I don't know where Nate is. Hopefully they can join us because those guys can provide some very interesting comments on this as well. So again, I am watching the television monitor up here. What's really weird on the digital weather channel with this, which this thing airs, they just took at 30 after the hour, they took that computer back there, but they don't have us up. There's just like a Windows screen on TV right now.
Oh gosh.
In fact, hey, here, let me, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yes.
See?
Yeah. Well, at least it doesn't say Control-Alt-Delete.
Yeah, a blue screen of death. So I got the World Series in one monitor, and we should be on that other one, but that is actually going out over the air right now. So, and again, part of it's our fault because they've got a routine. That thing is like automated to some degree, and they typically program all this stuff in for Monday night. So at the last second, we had to delete the Monday night stuff and move it over to Tuesday night. And there's probably a missed line of communication back there. So
sounds like it's your fault.
It's my fault totally. But let's get these things going here. Let's get this sucker started. All right, here we go. And here we go. This could be the greatest one ever. I feel good about this.
I've got a great POW this week too.
Good. I got rants, and this is good. All right, here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is WeatherBrains, episode number 563 for the 1st of November. We're past Halloween. The Christmas commercials are running. Hey, this is James, and this is going to be a different kind of show. A lot of things are different. Number one, we've had to move the production of the show back a day. What happened, we typically do the shows on Monday night, and we had some breaking news in my market, which involved me being in the TV studio for hours and hours, and that pushed back on the production stuff I have to do, and we just weren't able to do it Monday night. We had a fairly significant story. This really could affect anybody that lives in the eastern part of the country. One of the major underground gas pipes ruptured and exploded very close to where we are. In fact, Brian, it's almost in your backyard down there.
It is. Not far.
Yeah, and Brian lives in Helena, Alabama, and this is probably 8-9 miles from Brian's house, and just this huge fire and smoke plume, and so as TV stations do, they tend to be pretty aggressive with breaking news stories, and they went on the air with it. And weather people can talk. We are the ad-lib people, and news people tend to read scripts, and that's cool. I'm not good at that. I'm an ad-lib guy, so they bring me in there. And the main reason they needed me for all those hours was the social media element, in that I get literally, in this case, hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds and hundreds of photographs and videos of this thing. And until they get all their news cameras in place, that I was all they had. And of course, they still wanted me to stay in there because you get every angle of this thing. So I had to stay in there for hours and hours, and that pushed everything back. And we wound up just rescheduling for tonight. Now, the cool thing about tonight's show, there are no guests. Oh, and that opens the door for us to be kind of cranky and to say some outrageous stuff. This is going to be good. Aubrey Urbanowitz is going to – I'm glad Aubrey is here, Brian, because if Aubrey was not here, it'd be like two seventh graders in the locker room, you know?
Yeah. She'll help us keep our pants on.
I will try to.
That is a show title, the first show title of the night.
But I can't guarantee they'll stay on.
Yeah. So Aubrey is in the lovely Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Have the leaves all gone away? Are the colors gone?
No, we're so far behind. We started out thinking, all right, it might be a little tough to start. And, I think we'll make up for it. And we were out. What did I do last weekend? Last weekend we were out. Let's see, the in-laws were in last weekend. And then we drove Skyline Drive and the Blue Ridge Parkway the weekend before, and it was still pretty green, very green. They are just now starting to really turn, but they just don't have that vibrancy. So it is not.
I was about to ask you about, are the colors popping or are they kind of muted?
They're very muted, very muted. Just, lack of vibrancy.
Because I'm really excited about my pick of the week, which happens to do with the Boston Globe, and they have some autumn pictures that are absolutely to die for.
Yeah, there's been some great, and I was in parts of West Virginia in our viewing area toward the beginning of the month, because they were about 10 days behind, and the color there was spectacular, and it was really, really nice, and we got to do see a lot of good stuff. But in Virginia, it just has not been a good year for us. So. My foliage report has been kind of a dud.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
it's still pretty. I mean, it's still beautiful. You can't beat the views. So
right. It's always good, but I understand what you're saying. Some years are better than others, and where we are in the midst of a horrible, horrible drought, and it's just nasty. I mean, let's see where we are. We have not had measurable rain in 44 days.
Wow.
Now, Brian had 1/100th of an inch. He broke it.
Yeah, I messed up the record completely.
Yeah, 1/100th of an inch but where the records are kept, we're at 44 days. And, droughts begat droughts. The story, it's a feedback loop, and it's just bad that the soil moisture goes away. There's no evaporation. There's no moisture when fronts come through. And because the ground is dry, all of the solar energy is basically committed to heating the ground, which heats the air, and it gets hot. If this were August, we'd be doing like 108, 109 degrees. It would be big, bad, nasty heat. But today it was 88 on the 1st of November.
And that sets another new record.
Right. And this is the warmest November day on record for Birmingham, the city and the market where we are located here. And, that's just nasty stuff. But
how's your outlook looking? Are you guys going to stay pretty hot this week?
It breaks Friday. The fever breaks Friday. Yeah. Thursday's the last warm day.
That's with our front too.
Yeah, you're helping to send it down from your way. So Friday,
I'll try and send you a little moisture. Hopefully, we can. We had a pretty dry October, although we're in wildfire season, so we do tend to dry out this time of the year. It's pretty typical for us. We had about I think just under an inch for October. But I'm hoping to get maybe a 1/10 or a quarter. I think that would be a good number for us on Thursday.
Yeah, and with the front here, we don't expect anything. I mean, if it rains a drop, we'll be fortunate. And what we're all waiting for, it's the long-awaited pattern flip at mid-month, which has been advertised. And like I say all the time, there's no real skill in specifics beyond 7 days. I guess there might be out to 10, but beyond 7, I don't even like to go there. But there is some skill at pattern recognition, and it just seems as though that we'll get a trough kind of settling up in the eastern U.S. and cooler and wetter and more active weather. And some of the European ensemble data suggests where we are, we might have a crack at 5 inches of rain between mid-November, mid-December, and supported by climatology. This is a stormy period for us. This is the late fall tornado season here. So it typically tends to be wet and active, but we need something going on here because We're going to run out of water, and Brian cannot take a shower, and that's going to be a total disaster when that happens.
Complete disaster right there.
Yeah, bad.
Can I ask you something about patterns, James? Because I'm still learning about looking at some of the patterns and stuff. When you're looking at some of the ensembles and stuff, how do you depict whether it's maybe a full-on pattern change, or if it's just kind of a small change, and then you kind of sit in the same stagnant pattern that you're in?
Well, the first thing you want to look at, it's the ENSO cycle, the El Nino Southern Oscillation. And we're in this magical neutral phase, and everybody's kind of waiting to go into this La Nina phase, and you kind of keep your eye on that. But I'm typically more interested in the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, and where that one tends to want to go negative, and it just seems to want to go down in that direction. And if you look at the ensemble, and typically the European, I think it's got 51 members, you kind of look at the mean of the ensemble members, and you can look at the teleconnections, and then you can look at all the other parameters, and it seems to be jiving up for everything to match up to get rid of this blocking ridge we've had down here for months. This deflected these rain producing systems away, and to bring in a strong dip in the NAO and a dip in the AO, the Arctic Oscillation, and see if we can get some active cold fronts coming down through here. And that's what we need. And we need colder air lofts, and we need some moisture from the south. But again, it's still a crapshoot. That, the one thing, there's no guarantee this is going to happen. I can't sit here and guarantee people it's going to start raining in mid-November like magic. But there's you just see the cards on the table. It looks like there's a fair chance. So
what are your thoughts on the supposed developing La Nina? Does it develop early enough to impact the winter, or more so into spring?
I think it'll be more of a spring thing. And Brian, you've been around here a long time too. I can't find a real good correlation. A lot of people try and make it a very simple correlation wherever they live between El Nino, La Nina, and the seasonal outlook. I have a very hard time doing correlation with ENSO neutral and La Nina with Alabama winters. I've seen Alabama winters that are snowy and wet and cold. I've seen some that are mild and dry. I just can't find a correlation there. Yeah. On the El Nino side, it tends to be kind of wet here and mild, but it's a lot harder. So I don't know, and that's why I don't do it. I am not that good at it. You bring in some of these guys like Bastardi that are good at it. They've got all kind of thoughts. I just don't like to go there. It is all I can do in my pea brain to resolve weather out to 7 days. And some days I can't even do that. So here's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to say, we have no guests, and I saw Kevin pop in there for just a second, and he's gone. But this is what I want to talk about.
Ordering some pizzas.
Yeah, he really is. He's going to get good and cranky. I want you guys to just close your eyes and think about where we're going to be in 10 years. Now, for Brian and me, we're going to be dead probably. We'll be out here at the funeral home. But forget that. Where will the weather enterprise be in 10 years? So what I want to do is everybody to think about this and magically transport yourself to 2026, okay? And the question is, what does the enterprise look like? And we're going to talk about the private sector, where we are, and the Weather Service and NOAA, where they are. And in a way, Rick would have a hard time talking about this because he's still employed. Brian, will they cut your pension off if you say something ugly here?
I hope not. I'm not going to say anything ugly.
Well, you might. I mean,
I hope.
But here's
can I come live with you if they do?
And before we even talk about this, and you know this, and I've said it on the show before, this is my concern. I see us at a big fork in the road in the weather enterprise. I mean, a big fork. We are right at that signpost where we can go this way or we can go that way. And what we do together in the next year or two, I think, will set the stage for either us really improving the watch warning process, the ability to warn people about dangerous weather in a timely fashion, or the whole thing could go down the tubes. And I'm just committed to try with every bit of my strength and my heart and my soul to help this thing not go down the tubes. And I'm at that funny time of life where I am looking at retirement. I am 60 years old. I'm not as old as Brian. The nice thing about Brian being on the show, he's always going to be older than me. But you look at my
unless I kick off.
Yeah. At my generation, we're starting to fade away. The Gary Englands, the Skillings, We're all in there, but I want to work 8 more years. I want to work 8 more. I am very energized. I'm working out. I'm trying to adjust my diet. I want to be healthy and work 8 more years. And during the 8 more years, it's not necessarily about walking in that studio over there and saying, hey, it's going to be sunny tomorrow with a high of, 75. I enjoy that, but that's not the main reason I work 8 more years. I want to try and work within the weather enterprise to see if we can find a way of creating a simplified, unified, severe weather message across the whole enterprise and work together. A lot of people, and if Kevin jumps in his chair, he's probably going to say, well, that train's already left the station. It's down the tubes already. You can't do anything about it. I'll challenge anybody on that. I think we've not gone down the tubes yet. But so let's talk about, first off, the National Weather Service. And I'm hoping that this conversation will stimulate some people that work within the Weather Service that might want to come on the show and discuss this with us. It's hard when you work for them. You're afraid somebody is going to hear it at regional headquarters or, wherever, and you're going to get in trouble. And, but I think we have to be out in the open with this. So, Brian, you're our Weather Service guy here. Oh, Kevin's here. Kevin's ordering pizza on his phone there. He
suddenly showed up when we start talking more controversy.
Yeah, controversy. Kevin's middle name is Controversy. So Brian, you worked, and for those that don't know, Brian worked for the National Weather Service for a long time, retired as a WCM. And my question to you is, where will the National Weather Service be in 10 years? Will they have the same structure? Will there be local offices? Will it be centralized? Will this whole thing be automated? Let me just throw it out to you. Where do you think they're going to be at 2026?
And will they be talking ugly about me like you apparently just were?
He didn't say anything really bad about you, Kevin.
No.
Sorry, I'm having computer issues here at work tonight.
Uh-oh.
Boy, you and everybody said computer issues here.
Really?
Must be a full
moon.
Like
the forest doesn't want us to talk about this.
Yeah. Aubrey, you're in trouble too? And James, you guys are?
No, I'm having issues.
Brian had a meltdown with his hardware there, but he's online now. So.
Breaking news before Brian does.
Well, before we say anything else.
Holy mackerel.
We interrupt this program for a CBS Radio Net Alert Bulletin.
The second generation T-shirts are out now. Ooh. There's a qualifier.
Wow.
There's a qualifier on this, and I haven't been able to even check it this evening. The last time we did this, they gave us 3 weeks. You had to order within 3 weeks. And we ended up going through 3 cycles of this. And when I launched it a week ago today, which is Tuesday when we're recording this, it came up and it said, you have 7 days. And I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And so I have been trying with their support. Their support was the best support. This is Teespring. Best support, just wonderful support last time. Couldn't have been better. And my wife and her business partner are doing something on Teespring, and they're just raving about the support. And I have had the worst support issue on trying to get this thing extended. So I'm going to try and figure it out. But I'll make the website address to buy the T-shirts my pick of the week. So you can go to my Twitter feed and find it, or Brian will hopefully put it on the pick of the week. This is the second generation T-shirt. You have to be a WeatherBrains insider to understand this T-shirt, but you'll hopefully love it, and people will ask you questions. What does that mean? And would spark a conversation, and so on and so forth. So because we only do this program once a week, I couldn't promote it when I launched it on Tuesday, and now we're up to a week. So if you go there and you can't get it right away, just be patient and we'll get it back on. But I have to overcome all of these problems. So that's a long way around saying second generation T-shirts are here. And like before, we're going to do something cool with the money that we make. We're not keeping it for ourselves. I think it's going to turn into some sort of a scholarship through the NWA for a deserving student. And that's all I have to say.
And I will say the shirts look awesome. I'm going to get a bunch of them.
Oh, good. Oh, and well, we have more stuff. We have T-shirt, and Teespring has upped their game. Last time we had a T-shirt and a hoodie, and it was only black. And Aubrey complained and whined at me that there were no other color. No, I'm just
Black
She wanted.
fades. It's so hard to wash because it fades.
She justifiably asked for more colors, and Teespring stepped up to bat. And so this time we have a regular T-shirt with more colors. We have a hoodie with more colors, and we have a women's fitted. What do you call it? I don't know. A women's tee
Fitted tee
that has other colors as well. Aubrey can comment on this.
Actually, I got the men's. I got the men's in pink.
Okay. So
I knew you'd go for the pink. I just knew it. I went for the blue.
Yeah.
I have a lot of blue. I almost went for the blue. I have a lot of bright blue, so I was like, I'll get the pink. Kevin, do we know how many so far have been ordered?
Well, I can look while Brian answers James's question.
We haven't even promoted it yet. I mean, it's like
It says we hit the minimum.
Oh, it did?
It says available until tomorrow. We reached our minimum. The shirts will be printed now. Help us reach our goal.
Yeah.
And it says 1 day, 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 17, 15, 13, 14 seconds.
Yeah, there's somehow it'll relaunch. I just have to go through the motions of figuring out how to get it done. But they haven't been. I like them, but they haven't been particularly helpful on this particular issue. So,
Do you want me to help them call them up? I can fix it.
Don't forget, you got to get me that the email, or did you send me the email of?
Yes, I'm texting my brother. I'm asking him if he wants you to email him or just give him a call. So
Okay, great. Thank you.
We'll give him the good old 45. 40.
I'm sorry, I derailed the whole thing here, Brian. James asked you a very important question.
Yes, and I'm going to give a very important answer.
That's big breaking news. I mean, this is the ultimate Christmas gift idea for any weather geek. The new WeatherBrains.
That's right.
Second gen clothing. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm buying
if you listen to the show, you'll get the shirt. It's not just the WeatherBrains logo this time. It's something different. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but hopefully everybody will appreciate it.
Oh yeah,
I think they will.
It's good. So again, we will remind you before this show is over. So all right, back to you, Brian. So it's 10 years from now. It's 2026.
Okay.
What's your vision for the Weather Service?
Can I start off with a story?
Yes, we love stories, and you're a good storyteller.
When I first entered the National Weather Service, which was actually the Weather Bureau, I entered at what's called WBAS, Weather Bureau Airport Station, Tampa, Florida. And I was a student assistant to basically I did surface observations and upper air observations, got my certifications to do both of those during the summer. Well, interestingly enough, when I entered on duty at the Tampa office, they were all a Twitter because they were going to be moving soon. This was 1966. They didn't move until the latter part of the 70s. So the wheels of government turn mighty slow. I'm a little concerned about their present plan, but honestly, James, where do I think the Weather Service will be 10 years from now? I think we'll look a lot like what we look like right now. I don't know that there's going to be a lot of change because I have a feeling that this evolving is going to address a couple of issues. One is, and Dr. Sullivan mentioned this at the NWA conference, that they want to address employees' concerns about shift work. I understand that. I would like to address those too, but weather is a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365-day a year event thing. So you can't just not work midnight shifts. But I know when the weather's clear, you wish you could eliminate some shifts like that. Well, I think what they're going to do is they're going to lower the staffing at offices and staff up only when there is severe weather. And in the meantime, forecasting will go to the computers, to the GFS. It will be nice and uniform, which everybody seems to think is so great, but I think you lose a lot in the translation because computers don't know all the things that meteorologists know about some of the local things like backdoor fronts and wedge and cold air damming and stuff like that. So I have a feeling that as the evolution, as the plan, the evolving of the Weather Service comes to the public, there's going to be a lot of questions, and the end result will be that we will not actually have very many steps forward. I think I'm a little bit pessimistic about all of this. I'm not terribly optimistic because I'm very afraid that we're going to lose quality in our forecasting as well as potential quality in our warning process if forecasters aren't forecasting. So
a typical Weather Service forecast office, not during severe weather, during routine weather, what would their staffing look like, and who would do the upper air observations? I mean, how would that work?
Well, right now there's only 2 shifts a day that have to do the upper air because they're at 0Z and 12Z. So there's actually only 2 shifts that are actually doing those. Now, understand, when I left the Weather Service, the staffing has changed a little bit, but there were typically 2 meteorologists on duty around the clock. That was our staffing. And I think the evolution, what I see in the evolution and the plans that I've seen so far, which are not, I wouldn't say they're extensive plans. They're basically almost like informational sheets about the evolving of the National Weather Service. So I don't know how they're intending to get exactly to their final steps, but I noticed in the one that I think you posted, James, or mentioned, I noticed there was something about everybody keeping their jobs. It doesn't mean you're going to keep your job at your current location. You got to be careful about how they word these sorts of things. So I don't know. I'm kind of pessimistic. I think what they want to eventually do is, from a national center, produce all the forecasts that people get on a routine basis from the Weather Service, and then they would staff up and have a staff that's on a day-to-day basis doing preparedness work like the WCMs are doing. They would be doing preparedness work, working on what do they call that? Working with the disaster folks, with on-site assistance to events that are going on.
Surveys.
Yeah, and surveys. And but the Weather Service would actually close up from, I don't know, maybe 10 p.m. I'm guessing here, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. or roughly that, because they'd have to open up early enough for the upper air run to get run in the morning, which usually means somebody coming in around 4 a.m. or so, roughly, to get the run.
Well, let me ask you this. So in your opinion, will the Weather Service in 2026 be issuing watches and warnings?
Yes.
Or will they be out of that business?
No. I don't think the Weather Service will ever get out of the warning and for that matter, the watch business. I think.
Do you think so? But you think that it will still be done with local offices and not from some centralized headquarters somewhere?
And I think that Dr. Sullivan actually stated that pretty clearly in her talk at the NWA conference. That the National Weather Service and they've been working hard over the last couple of years to really try to understand, and I think they're really trying hard to figure this all out and do what is the best. But you have to remember, there's also another thing that enters this that it doesn't necessarily strive for quality, and that's cost. And when I retired from the Weather Service in 2003, approximately 92% of the National Weather Service budget was staffing.
Salaries, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so if you have to cut, if Congress says cut across the board 15%, where do you cut? Well, you've only got 8% of stuff. Well, we can't eliminate upper air runs. If we eliminate those, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Warning forecasts will go down the tubes. Warnings will really go down the tubes if we don't know what the atmosphere is doing. And despite their best efforts, the satellites just don't come up with data that's good enough to replace radiosondes yet. I don't know about GOES-R. GOES-R might have the answer to all of that. But from what I've seen, that's a long shot. That's still a bit of a long shot there. So
okay, so Kevin's got to do television. You got 3 minutes here. What are you going to be doing in 10 years? What's your job, Kevin, in the private sector, broadcast?
I'm actually
you've been doing your own warnings.
We had to record our Fox show early because of the baseball game, so I don't have to.
Oh, good.
I can start ranting and just not stop.
I go.
No. Well, I would ask Brian a question first. What time frame do you see this happening?
Well, James was asking over the next 10 years, and my answer is I don't see much of this actually getting implemented in the next 10 years.
Oh, so it's
in other words, when it comes to eliminating the local forecaster from the equation. I think some of the people like congressmen and state senators and legislators are going to get into the whole picture, and it's going to be a tough sell. I think it's going to be a very tough sell.
I had an interesting thought the other day when you look at, there's a fair amount of I don't want to call it hostile criticism aimed at the Weather Service. And the forecasts that they're putting out, and some of it, like from Cliff, has been, saying,
Yes.
well, we don't have enough, horsepower on the computers, and yada yada yada. And then you look on the other side, these ding dongs at AccuWeather, who I should say, a couple of ding dongs at AccuWeather, people that work there and actually do work, are great. But we know who we're talking about. But you look at all this criticism that is hurled at them, especially if some of it, non-justified, or if it is justified, it seems to me to be making the case to say, okay, well, if the Weather Service is so underpowered, doesn't that suggest that we power them up a little bit rather than cutting and trying to trim where there is no room to trim? Apparently, this makes no sense. I mean, I think what you're saying is, okay, let's give them the app that AccuWeather doesn't want them to have. Let's give them the computer horsepower that other people don't want them to have, or that for somebody doesn't seem to want to have them. Why are we hobbling them? I think that's ridiculous.
Well, and again, I think you have to follow the money, and I think it comes down to the budget and where they stand in trying to sell or keeping the Weather Service out of this cost cutting across the board. Because like I said, when 90% of your budget, 9/10 of your budget is staffing, the only place you can cut basically is in staffing. And that doesn't really help. I mean, because you're suggesting we need to maybe throw a few more people at this situation.
Well, I guess we ask, what's the complaint here? Is the complaint the service that they're providing, or is it just that it just costs too much? I don't know that anybody's answered that.
Well, and from what Dr. Sullivan said at the NWA, I think from the employee side, there's a lot of complaints about the stress, the drudgery, just the loss of your own personality when you have to work midnight shifts.
I mean, hang on
tough
now.
shift.
What? So who is it? The millennials, the young people that don't want to do this? What in the world happened to this country where we're so weak we can't work midnight shifts? When did this happen?
I'm just telling you what she was talking about their listening to their employees and how tough it is to work midnight shifts and combine it with families. I understand that. I did it for 36 years. I understand.
Who said this is going to be easy?
Yes. Well,
when the weather doesn't stop, I mean, goodness, I've been married 35 years, raised 2 kids, working bizarre hours. I haven't slept since 1973. I've had a very wonderful marriage and family life, and it's been hard. It's been really hard. Yes. I mean, I used to be a good-looking guy, and look what happened to me. But so now we're to the point where people don't want to work midnights because they're afraid there's going to be too. It goes back to this work ethic thing. I just don't know. Nobody wants to work hard anymore. That is so bizarre to me. I mean, what's going to happen in the medical community if doctors don't want to work midnights in the ER? What if we don't want to work midnights when there's a tornado at 3:00 in the morning? What is the deal? That's unbelievable. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, and it sounds good when she says they're listening to the employees, and I think the National Weather Service does need to listen to their employees. I think that's an important thing for them, and I think it will help to better the whole service. But I'm not sure that it's necessarily listening to just the complaints. There are some advantages to working shift work that a lot of people don't think about, and one of those advantages is you get shift differentials for working nighttime, what are considered nighttime hours. So you get a little extra bonus in your check when you work a 4 to midnight, and 6 hours of that 8-hour shift is actually in the differential period of time. You get Sunday differential, which is 25% extra. So the things that are tough, there are some financial compensations for in trying to shall we say, placate the employees. But, and for some of the employees, those differentials are like a pay raise every paycheck.
Well, so let's go back to the private sector.
Okay.
Kevin and Aubrey's on television, I think now. Kevin, will will TV stations and the Weather Channel and AccuWeather all be doing their own watches and warnings in 2026?
Wow. Who knows? I mean, I know it's just sort of a mental exercise there, but I don't know. I think what I absolutely see is just for media, given the slow contraction of the number of owners, that the tightening will continue, and it'll become very, very, very uncomfortable for everybody, not just weather people working at television stations, as the contraction continues. And I think rather than just disappearing, it's just going to be a long, slow, uncomfortable burn. And I'm not sure that the digital side pays for the infrastructure. So that's kind of a weak answer, but I think that's all I got.
But again, here's my main question. I want to know, let's say there's a tornado down approaching Wichita Falls in 2026. Will the warning that most people hear for that come from the Weather Service in Norman, or will it come from you on television that you issued yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, who knows?
So here's where we are. We're starting to see it now.
Yeah.
We know that AccuWeather issues tornado warnings. Kansas Turnpike, we've had these guys on the show if you want to go back and listen to it, but they're issuing their own warnings now.
Right.
You have the Weather Channel issuing their own proprietary severe weather indices in this Torcon thing, which I think opens the door for the next level, which is they're issuing their own watches and warnings. I think that's a matter of time, and I think it's going to be sooner than later. I'm starting to see evidence in some local markets.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're doing that in Oklahoma City to some degree, aren't they, Kevin?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So, and so here's the question. Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? And again, I want to come at this thing very unbiased because it is my goal, and here's my problem. I've been doing this long time. I'm old as dirt. And the problem I've dealt with and what I've encountered over all these years, it's all of these funerals. And there have been so many under my watch, and even now we still have way too many, that this insanity has got to stop. And we've all got a lot of work to do. And it is my belief, and I might be wrong, that if everybody issues their own products and services, it will be mass chaos, mass confusion. People won't know what to do, who to listen to. They're going to turn on one guy and he's going to say, there's a tornado, dig a hole. And another guy says, oh, it's just a thunderstorm, no big deal. The other guy says, there's no tornado, but it's a severe storm. You got to be underground. It will be so chaotic that nobody will know what to do. And the loss of life will not go down. The loss of life will go up. And I have seen it over and over and over and over. The grieving survivors of these precious people that have died, their pain is so real. It is so visceral that you can feel it. And I don't want anybody else to have to experience that. And in these 8 years where I'm going to keep working here, I want to help fix this problem. So how do we fix the problem? And I still believe, it's my opinion, that we need a unified warning system. And I believe that needs to come from the Weather Service. And then you get some of these TV guys, well, I'm not letting the government tell me what to say. I'm not going, that's bad. It's like communism. No. Look, I don't even read the call to action statements. I don't know what they say. I get the warning expiration time. I take that, I put it on the air, and then all the context comes from me. We all communicate it in different ways, but I think the warnings, the time of expiration, the call to action statements have to be kind of on the same page. And is there any way, Kevin and Brian, we can save this? Or do we need to save it? Is it better if TV stations do issue their own warnings and the Weather Service gets out of the business?
I don't think so. I don't think that makes it better. I have sort of an analogy here, James, If state government and the county government and the city government were all to have their own traffic lights when you approach an intersection, and you know where I'm going here, right?
Yeah.
Which one do you follow? Which one is right? And is the other guy coming in the other way? Is he following the same one you're following or not? And that's a little bit of a kind of a simplified analogy to multiple warnings. And you're absolutely right. There's a station in this market that's already basically issuing their own watches. They don't call them watches. They call them something else. But it's basically a heads up that, severe weather's going to occur.
Right, and let me say too here, Brian. And as we talk about this, we're not necessarily throwing criticism at meteorologists, because understand, I am employed by Sinclair Broadcast Group, the largest owner of TV stations in the country. I am here to work for them.
Right.
They could come in this room tonight and tell me I got to wear pink polka dot underwear on television tomorrow, and I got to go wear pink polka dot underwear. And they might come in and tell me that you're going to have to start issuing your own watches and warnings. That's our new policy. The consultants say that's what we need to do, and we're going to start doing that tomorrow. Or we're going to start doing 90-day forecast on television. You've got to start doing that. Now, I might pitch a hissy fit, and I can pitch a world-class hissy fit. But ultimately, they have the say-so. It's their property. It's not mine. And so in a lot of situations, these men and women that are working, they don't have any choice. They're just doing what they're told to do. And so to some degree, some of it's out of our hands. These consultant goobs, the tracking the trackers thing. I feel like playing it.
Now, WeatherBrains is tracking the tracker. We track what the consultants track so you can track along with us. Does that make sense? Here's WeatherBrains lead tracker, Kevin Selly.
But this was a consultant thing. So some consultant guy decided that you're going to get big ratings if you say track or tracking every other sentence, which is just idiotic. But these guys, in some cases, are running the roost here. They're ruling the roost. And so the question is, and I, Brian, believe with you. Now, Kevin, I don't know if he wants to say. Kevin, do you think we all need to be doing our own warnings? And
No, I don't. No, I agree with you guys on that. What I was sitting here thinking about is, I tend to, in this area, I think I falsely tend to live in a world of ideals where I wish certain things would happen and they won't. But I think that we've gotten too far, and Oklahoma City is the largest example of this. We've gotten too far into this has turned into a show and a performance thing and a competition thing, as opposed to a public service thing. It's couched in public service, but they've gone too far in the show version of it. And I guess if we're just what if, and I think we ought to just remove it from TV and go to the digital platforms or weather radio or whatever it is. But I just think that I think it's gone too far on TV. Does that make any sense?
No. No, but I understand what you're saying. People are in it to make names for themselves and to put on a big act and, get big ratings. And the idea of pushing good weather information becomes secondary to getting big ratings numbers. And again, that's the nature of our business. If we don't get numbers, we won't be working here. We'll be fired. We will be released. Nothing's going to work. But I think there is a happy place in there somewhere where you can still get big numbers and do an adequate job of warning people in a very proper fashion, proper and decent, without putting on all this show.
But who's going to decide what that is, and how do you monitor and enforce it?
Yeah, but you can't enforce it. Look, the marketplace will sort all this stuff out.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Is we can't, since we can't monitor and or enforce it, then nothing will change. It'll just continue to drift slowly in a worse direction.
So is there any hope where we can work together, which is an odd thing? And this is the other amazing thing. We're just weather people, meteorologists, operational grunts. What makes us so special that we should have some big ego that I'm kind of it's like Ron Burgundy. I'm kind of a big deal. We're not a big deal. We are not a big deal. We are just servants working in a job to serve people. And, goodness.
This is what I'm saying. You're not going to be able to enforce that standard.
But the question is there any way we can prevent what's happening in some markets and other markets where the TV stations...
That's deciding what the standard is and then enforcing it, which you're not going to be able to do.
So the question is, do you think we could go into... and I'm looking next year is the AMS broadcast workshop is in, I want to say Kansas City. And Matt Parker is going to be the AMS president. And there are a lot of people on board with this idea of trying to stop this train before it gets out of the station too far, where we just lock ourselves in a padded cell. And we don't leave that room until we come out of there with a gentleman's agreement on the warnings will come from the Weather Service. We're all going to communicate it differently. We're all going to do it our own way. But the warnings, the call to action statements, the mat colors will be consistent across the board.
Who's in that padded room?
This would be a lot of different people. You'd have players with leadership with the AMS and the NWA. That represents the weather enterprise, if you will.
Okay.
They are the ones that hand out this certification. The NWA has a seal of approval. The AMS has a CBM, certified broadcast meteorologist. If there's any enforcement, if they see you going rogue, if you've decided you're not going to, you think you're smarter than everybody at the Storm Prediction Center. You are smarter than Rich Thompson. You are smarter than John Hart, and you're going to issue your own watches. The AMS and the NWA might decide, well, this guy doesn't need to get a seal or a CBM. That's one enforcement method. Not that that's going to stop a person from working in the industry. It's not. But that's sure going to make it a lot harder. But I would have the AMS and the NWA involved. I'd have Ussolini with the Weather Service involved, head of the Weather Service. I would bring in some of the biggest broadcast news guys in the country, which would be my company, Sinclair. I would get the corporate news guy from Baltimore and bring him in that room. I would bring in some of the older established Mets and some active markets. And people from the Storm
Sinclair guy, has he indicated a willingness to do that?
I haven't talked to him yet. I've got to be sure we've got to have our act together before I even think about inviting him.
Yeah.
And I have sent a note to some people in the weather enterprise. They'd be willing to come to Kansas City and serve on a panel. Just I didn't tell them we're going to lock ourselves in a padded room until we fix this. But everybody I've approached said they've been giving me a big thumbs up. Which is very encouraging. And that's the easiest thing to do. It's lip service. Walking the talk is going to be a lot harder, where you go back to your market and then you go to all the other chiefs and you've got to humble yourselves. You've got to have a spirit of humility and go to your competitors and say, I just want to come to you with that spirit of humility, and I want us to get together and not talk about trade secrets and not talk about anything else other than agreeing on some very basic things. The Weather Service will issue the watches and warnings in this market. We're not going to do it on our own. We're going to use their expiration times. We're going to use a standard call to action statement in every market. And again,
how are you going to combat then the Weather Channel or AccuWeather or whoever pushing their own stuff out on social media?
They have to be in the same padded cell with
Yeah.
us. That they have to be in that same padded cell. And I've reached out to some people within those organizations and internally, and I'm not going to drop names here, but I've been very encouraged by the reaction. Because, my great fear, the next one to go is the Weather Channel, where they decided they're not going to use any Weather Service watches and warnings. They're going to do their own thing. This Torcon thing has been the greatest thing, and everybody's talking about it. And the local guys like Span, he hates it. We got up under his skin. We're going to really take it to the next level. And so, Lord have mercy, when that happens, it's going to be very challenging. But they need to be there too. And I'm hoping we can just hold it off. If we can just hold it off until next summer where we get in there for several days and come up with some type of working agreement. Not that it's going to be perfect, and we'll have rogue, stations, and certain people are going to do things you certainly can't control. But I would like for the AMS and the NWA to have a pretty hardcore statement on this. We've got to have a unified messaging system across the board. And if you go rogue, you are not going to get certified by the AMS. You will not have a CBM. And if you have one, it will be revoked. And if you have a NWA seal, that will be revoked as well, which sounds kind of harsh, but so what? I'm telling you, the number of people that have died and the number of families that have been impacted, the pain that I've seen in my market is it's overwhelming, and something has to be done. So I really want to try and stop this train. And so the next question, though, for you guys, and Aubrey, I see Aubrey's here. And we'll do some email here in a second when she can. Aubrey, can you talk? If you cannot talk, okay. At 30 after the hour, she can talk. Do we even have a job, Kevin, in 10 years? I'll be retired, but do you have a job? Or those that are in this business? What's you talk about the television shrinking up. What is our role? Are we even here in 10 years? And you're muted.
You're muted.
10 years, maybe 20 years. It's hard to see.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's going to be good. And for the people that are young and want to get in this, I don't want to discourage anybody. I think something really exciting is going to come from this. It certainly won't be this. You're not going to be on the 10 o'clock news. Hey, sunny skies for your Tuesday. Why? That no. But something will be there. And, and the other thing, Kevin, and this is really going to get Kevin cranky. I mean, his head will explode. I want somebody from Twitter and Facebook in that room.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
I've actually made those overtures, and they don't want to hear you.
As much as the words Twitter and Facebook drive a branch up your backside, they play or could play a very important role in this, and they do no matter what.
You know what? I have made those overtures before, and has fallen on deaf ears. What I learned, and I think we talked about this a long time ago, it was a couple of years ago, what I learned in talking to a guy named Vic Gandotra, and maybe we need to see if we can get him on the show, because that would be fascinating. He used to be on the masthead of Google, right below
Google Plus. He was the Google Plus guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the guy that did Google Plus, and he was very generous. He gave me a half hour on the phone one day, and
wow.
And the number one thing I learned from him, and he's no longer there. He's running some other company now, but when you're talking about a global platform like Facebook and Twitter, the minute you make some accommodation or fork that thing to some individual group's needs, you have to do it for everybody. And that doesn't scale on a global platform. And so while I'm sure they would agree, they can't come in and say, okay, weather people, we're going to do you this little favor here in this little corner of the world, because then they have to do it for everybody. And that just can't happen.
Yeah, and then that's probably true. And we need to hear from them. We need to hear them say that. And do they want to have any role in this, or hands off, or and the other thing too, it's the people that do WEA, wireless emergency alerts. Who are these people? And where are they from? And where do they live?
It's the FCC.
Is it the FCC
Where do they live?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the
I want to know
service,
where,
the FCC.
Where is
FEMA?
this sausage made? How does it work?
Washington, D.C.
Because the truth is for most people today, the way they're going to get a tornado warning first, it's a WEA alert on their phone. We like the apps, and there's some very good warning apps, but the truth is most people don't buy apps. Most people get these phones, and they just use whatever's on the phone, and they're going to hear these obnoxious tones going off every time there's a tornado warning, a flash flood warning, or an amber alert. And I think that FEMA, it's the emergency management community and the FCC, right? You're right, Brian. I mean, but I don't. It's like a mystery, and I think they should be in that same padded cell. There's so many moving parts to this thing, but this is a really crucial thing here, and also I'd like to bring in some engineers. I want to know. I want to know more about the television industry. Are we going to be IP delivered, Kevin, in 10 years? Will we have transmitters and will we have RF signals like we have now, or is it all going to be IP delivered, just streaming? What do you think?
Did you see that ESPN lost 600,000 subscribers last month?
Yeah, I listened to a show called No Agenda podcast, and they were talking about that. Yeah. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money for these guys.
That was twice the monthly decline of the last 3 months when it was about 300,000.
And those are cord cutters, right?
Yeah, the cable companies are going to be in trouble because I want to say the average payment, $7 of your cable bill goes to ESPN, and that is about 3 times the next closest. The rate that the next closest channel gets.
And again, I think, and I'll be the first to say, 5 years ago, I thought it was going to be all IP delivered. I thought we'd just be streaming. Our towers would be taken down. But I'll be honest with you, with this cord cutting thing, people are discovering free television again. Yeah. Most young people have no idea there's such thing as free television. You don't have to pay DirecTV or Dish or Charter or Comcast. If you have a little small antenna, then you can pick up in most markets 3 dozen channels. Now, true, most of them are just crap. You get the Chinese Shopping Network and the How to Cook with Ginzu Knives channel, all these D2s and D3s, but you get the network feeds, and the quality is stunning. It's compressed. There's only so much bandwidth these satellite providers have. DirecTV and Dish, they have to compress the video. When you see the uncompressed version that's free over the air, it is beautiful. Yeah. And people are discovering, I can get all these channels and it's free. And with a little small antenna you can buy down here at the Best Buy or something that costs $9, and you just spend one time $9. And then if you want to dabble in some of the stuff, you can go to Sling TV or Hulu.
Well, yeah. The problem now is that, we hit that point where people started pushing back. Your cable bill's $100 or $120. Well, 50 to 60 of that is your internet connection, right? But now everybody's trying to do these smaller bundles. Well, the minute you have 6 bundles at $10, you're back to where you were paying before. There's an economic reality that people just can't pay more than that.
Right. They will nickel and dime you to death. I'll say that. I mean, I see a lot of people cutting the cord, and then they spend $10 here and $5 here and $8 here, and before you know it, you're up to $100 again.
Right.
And for everybody, it's different. Some people love sports. Some people don't care about sports. And for the ones who don't care about sports, that's where the ESPN folks are losing their subscribers.
Right.
But still, and Aubrey says in the chat room, she thinks we'll be here. It says she sees more live streaming, web elements, maybe less actual formatted, 6 o'clock news stuff like we do now. I just don't know. But I do know this. When tornadoes start flying in Oklahoma City and in Birmingham, they're going to come seek us out. They'll find us somehow. And
until the rest of your business model collapses, because you can't support the whole infrastructure. In Dallas-Fort Worth, I said over and over and over again, there's only 25 to 35 thunderstorm days per year, not severe weather, but just thunderstorm days. So you got the 300 and whatever that is days left where you got to be running a business, and it's just gone crazy.
Yeah, and I agree. And then the next thought, let's just say James Spann's going to do James Spann Enterprises, where it's jamesspann.com. There's no TV station. Well, you know what? I can't afford a helicopter, and I can't afford 65 sky cams, and I can't afford all these people in the field that you have in these big television stations. And while, I could set up a green screen, which I do have at my house, which is kind of cool, and I could go live on the internet. I can go live tonight if I wanted to in my office studio at my house. But you're missing all the support elements that come with it. And what makes our tornado coverage, I believe, in my opinion, it's the cameras. Everybody's got radar. You can go buy a radar scope for $9 and put that behind you on the wall, and any 15-year-old kid can do a green wall and radar. Radar, everybody's got radar. What makes our coverage different, it's the live streams in the field from people like Brian and John Oldshoe and all of these cameras. And when people see a live stream of a tornado, they're going to do something about it. And that's the reason we work really hard on that. So I agree. We something's going to survive. And I do think there's got to be some consolidations. All these markets can't have 6, 7 TV stations doing newscasts. I mean, the pie is getting so cut up, it doesn't make economic sense. And I think the weak players will have to step aside. There will be some surviving entities. And I do think in 2026, there's going to be some pretty healthy entities that are big boys, and they can do things like we're doing today. But it's just my concern that in 2026, every TV station is going to be issuing their own watches and warnings. The Weather Channel, AccuWeather, WeatherBug, Weather Doodle, JoeBlowWeather.com, they are all going to be issuing their own watches and warnings. And it's going to be really ugly. And you are going to have a higher loss of life in 10 years than you have now, unless we fix it now. And my proposition to the whole weather enterprise that's listening to this is, let's see if we can come up with a solution without restricting anybody. Everybody's going to still do their own thing. They're going to communicate it their own way and market it their own way. But to have a unified warning system across the enterprise without anybody going rogue. And sure enough, somebody's going to go rogue. But if they do, you don't certify them. They have no AMS certification. They have no NWA certification. They need to be they're just rogue. So I'm hoping, and if you're listening to this, and if you're in the weather enterprise, and if you want to come to this thing in Kansas City, drop me an email, hit me up on the Twitter, and if your thoughts, I welcome that. And again, I've got great interest from both the AMS, the NWA, and many players in the field and some of these big businesses. And I just want to work to see if we can come up with something to give us some hope for the future. I don't want this thing going down the tubes. Weather Service, who knows what happens, Brian, but you think Weather Service will still be in the warning business in 10 years. Surely they would. That is their main function, protecting human life, right?
Right.
So
primary directive.
I do think they'll be in that business. And, it might be from a central place. It might be all the warnings are coming from one place, from Silver Spring or from Walla Walla or from Goose Creek or from Waco, whatever.
See, I disagree with you on that.
And I hope you're right.
I really think if what I heard Dr. Sullivan say is, I think one of the messages they got firmly is that the success of the National Weather Service lies in its field structure. So,
and I agree. And I've said this over and over. You can't do weather unless you understand people, culture, and geography.
Well, can you imagine the EMA director in, say, let me take Chilton County,
Alabama.
Yeah, Chilton County, Alabama, calling up somebody and talking to him about the specifics of a cell, and the guy in Washington, D.C. or Walla Walla, Washington, knowing what he's talking about when he starts talking about some of these communities that don't show up on the map.
And then there's a good chance the guy in Walla Walla can't even understand his southern drawl, that we have down here. So there's a language barrier.
There's that issue too.
Yeah, surely there'll still be some field organization then. But again, I think something's got to change within the Weather Service. I know that they don't have enough money. And right now they're stretched. They don't have enough people. That most offices have stopped Skywarn training in person.
Yeah, in person.
They do it online. And again, that's cool. Look, I'm all in on that. But I do think, Brian.
Yes.
Face to face.
Yes. I'm with you.
And we do that in spring here or before the spring, and the crowds have been huge at the training events that you do. And I don't know how many people respond to the online stuff offered by the Weather Service, but I'd almost be willing to bet those that attend your class in person, and this is not knocking anybody that's doing the training, it's just a function of the platform.
Right.
Training in person is much more effective than training on a computer, and you'll wind up being a better spotter if you've been trained in person. And they just don't have the money to hire the people to go do this like they used to do. I mean, they travel all over the place and do these things, and I don't see much of that anymore. And I know that they're frustrated. I know there's a lot of people in the Weather Service frustrated because they move slow and the budget and everything, but it is what it is. We've still got to get better.
Well, and part of the reason I retired when I did, James, was partially because of that frustration, because not only was I doing the work of external affairs from the weather office, but I was also required to work shifts whenever somebody got sick, which makes it very difficult to schedule appointments to go out and talk face-to-face with these folks when you also have to fill in on shift work to cover the forecast shifts 24 hours a day. So I do understand the frustration, because it was part of the reason that I decided to retire when I did.
Yep. Well, all right. We got to take a break here. We're going to do a Professor Peters and Aubrey. If you can do you need to do email now or? Okay, we'll roll Professor Peters. Okay, we'll roll Professor Peters and Tony Rice. We'll come back with the email inbox, weather roundup, picks of the week, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
Winter is just around the corner, but you could hardly tell that from the temperatures we've been experiencing in the southeastern United States. It won't be long, though, before we'll be plagued with frozen precipitation. Glaze is a thin coating of ice that forms when supercooled liquid precipitation, such as freezing rain or drizzle, falls onto exposed objects whose temperature is below or slightly above freezing. Although these droplets freeze almost instantly, they have sufficient time to spread out into a thin layer before doing so. The result is that surfaces become coated by a smooth, compact deposit of clear ice. Glaze is denser, harder, and more transparent than either rime or hoarfrost. Glaze often forms ahead of an approaching warm front. When the air temperature ahead of the front is lower than freezing, any rain or drizzle that falls from the warm, moist air overhead will be transformed into glaze when it hits the ground. Slow-moving or even stationary fronts blocked by a winter anticyclone may result in the accumulation of thick layers of glaze. These events are known as ice storms and can be extremely destructive as ice accumulations break trees and tree limbs and down telephone and power lines through the weight of the accumulated ice. Another form of glaze may sometimes be created when warm, humid air masses suddenly bring a thaw to a region that has been undergoing severe frost. Then objects are still cold enough to freeze the condensing water vapor, covering them with a thin coating of ice. These conditions occur rather frequently in eastern central Europe and across North America. This form of glaze is known as silver thaw. Another popular term related to glaze is black ice. Generally, black ice is a thin sheet of clear ice or glaze that is often dark in appearance. Black ice is very dangerous for motorists because its visual appearance gives the road a wet look rather than an icy one. When black ice conditions are encountered, drivers will find little to no traction, little to no braking capability, extremely poor directional control, and the high possibility of skids. Best thing you can do when these conditions occur is to stay off the roads if possible. Have a weather question? Drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your Astronomy Outlook.
You can find the Associated Press Stylebook in the backpacks of J-School students and the desk of newsrooms across the land. It's the Bible for capitalization, hyphenation, and generally, as the AP puts it, quote, an essential tool for anyone who cares about good writing, unquote. Recent changes like more than versus over, e-mail versus email, and whether the word okay is acceptable only with 4 letters or whether 2 will do has garnered a lot of fun yet pedantic debate. The only thing that tries my patience more than the Stylebook's recent guidance to use climate change doubters rather than deniers is their capitalization guidance on the words sun and moon. Even when used in sentences like the moon is full tonight or the sun will come out tomorrow, the AP tells us to, quote, lowercase sun and moon, always. The Chicago Manual Style at least acknowledges capitalization of the sun and moon when used as proper nouns, but suggests that in non-technical context, lowercase is okay. That's okay with 4 letters. I contend that both are wrong and have been for a long time. For guidance on this question, I look to a pair of sources I trust a bit more. The International Astronomical Union, or IAU, knows a thing or two about the subject. The IAU is solely responsible for naming surface features of a planet or satellite and the body itself. Also look to organizations like NASA and the European Space Agency. The NASA History Office maintains a style guide, which instructs writers to, quote, capitalize moon when referring to the Earth's moon, otherwise lowercase moon. For example, the moon, capital M, orbits Earth, while Jupiter's moons, lowercase m, are visible with a good pair of binoculars. If you look on the ISA and ESA websites, as well as NASA, you'll consistently see capital M moon when referring to Earth's moon, and lowercase m moon otherwise. So what's all this about? We're coming up on a string of supermoons to close out 2016. Should you capitalize supermoon? We are talking about Earth's moon after all. I argue no. It's not a proper noun, it's an event, and not a very rare event either. So stick with the lowercase only. The only place I've seen it capitalized is the occasional small newspaper or blog or an astrology context. The inventor of the word itself, astrologer Richard Knoll, camel-cased the word. Every major news agency pretty consistently goes with one word lowercase supermoon. But in the end, it's the AP style guide, not style mandate. So, station scientists and others that appreciate that being technically correct is the best kind of correct, keep on capitalizing moon and sun, but not supermoon. That's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more rants like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
You know, it's kind of cool, Brian. I actually have a little miniature version of the weather ball. That jingle was from WCCO in Minneapolis, St. Paul from 1949. And when I was up there a couple of months ago, I actually got a replica of the weather ball, which was awesome.
All right. Does it work?
I need to put it up on the roof and see if it works here. But anyway, this is where we go around and do the quick weather roundup. And this is on November 1st. And it's really amazing. I was looking at the the watch warning map around the nation. There's nothing. There's no severe weather. We've got no snowstorms, no flooding. At the World Series tonight, they're in the 60s, very comfortable. And one of the biggest issues, probably, it's our drought down here, Brian.
That's true. I think that's one of the biggest issues. We're right up there with California.
Yeah, it's we've had wildfires all over the place. In fact, yesterday we had this huge gasoline pipeline explode, which affects the eastern third of the country. This is a main distribution channel for petroleum and gasoline for the eastern U.S., and the thing ruptured and exploded. At first, when we saw the pictures, we're thinking, well, it's another wildfire. We see these things every day, just dozens and dozens of them. But it's pretty rough. And again, where we are, we have gone at the official observation point, 44 consecutive days without measurable rain, which is a pretty remarkable streak. The record here is 52, and we're going to make a run for that. But it sure looks like the pattern might flip in mid-November. And I'll say this, I have learned over the years that droughts tend to end somewhat ugly where we are.
Are you suggesting flooding?
With floods or severe weather or tornadoes or something. And I hope it doesn't happen this time. So, Kevin, what's happening in Wichita Falls, Texas?
It has just been warm. We've been well up into the mid to upper 80s, and the average high this time of year is in the low 70s. So one more day of that for Wednesday, and then we'll be back down closer to average. Rainfall has been pretty good. You're right on this ending, droughts ending in floods. That's what happened to us last year. We ended a 5-year drought where the two main reservoirs for the city were both below 20% full, and we filled them in about a month and a half.
Yeah, it's funny how it often does that. And the problem we have here, November, December, this is the tornado season, and I just hope it doesn't end ugly come mid to late month. Brian, you in town Thanksgiving?
No.
As a matter of fact, I'll be the only guy here when this stuff happens. But I see Aubrey, and just maybe one or two emails have rolled in this week. I don't know.
We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
Hello, hello. Yes, we do have some emails this week. Let's pull her up. Let's see. We've got a link from Clay Barnett, who said that he helps or is hoping that this link maybe can relieve some foghorn for someone who maybe doesn't have one. But I think we're all doing pretty good tonight. It is a link from al.com with some really cool pictures of the Caribbean that have been taken because I guess in the drought, I guess the Caribbean's clear because of the drought. So there are some really cool pictures in there. So thanks for sending in that link. Fellow Virginian here, thank you, Chris, for sending in this link, a La Nina comparison with a romantic comedy. The title is Here's Why Scientists Keep Changing Their Minds About This, the winter forecast for a La Nina, or a La Nina winter forecast. I don't know. I think, James, you had it right, that it's probably not going to develop until late in the season. I think these things maybe develop slow. And
you know, again, we need to get a long range guy on here to talk about all this sometimes. But I would not be shocked if we stayed INSO neutral through pretty decent part of the winter.
Well, how long did it take the super duper mega El Nino to develop? It was like they've been talking about it for 2 years before it actually developed.
Yeah, they said it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and finally it did come.
Oh, it's coming next year. Yep.
It happened, but it just sometimes doesn't happen when you want it to.
Yep. And then we have this gem from, let's see, this was sent in by Will from a Facebook. Oh, our favorite time of the year for Facebook, the winter forecast and winter storms. This Yahoo is calling for the winter to be nothing like last winter, as we will have a weak La Nina and a trough set up on the East Coast. I see us getting 4 snow events this winter, with 2 of them being major over 6 inches. Yeah.
That's the first time nobody's ever called anybody a Yahoo on this.
I'm about to say, I call them jabronis. I've never heard anybody call them Yahoos. That's pretty cool.
I don't think I've ever heard her use that.
I will, and I will use it fiercely this winter, because this is why I don't like winter anymore. These guys stress. I just want to, ground them and put them in the corner.
Aubrey's head's going to
ground them and
explode.
put them in the corner.
Wow.
Oh, these guys, I would not mind winter so much if it weren't for basically shooting down every storm that comes out, or every supposed storm in 10 days. It's going to give us 35 inches of snow.
Oh, no, it's taken the fun out of it. I used to love winter, but now these jabronis, it's just, all you do is put down the panic that these Facebook guys are starting. And there's the same thing. They'll be forecasting big snowstorms 3-4 weeks in advance. And they've got thousands and thousands of followers. And those followers are fiercely loyal. They don't care if they're right or wrong. They just get excited because they know the jabroni guys are always going to be forecasting snowstorms 3 and 4 weeks in advance. If it doesn't happen, it's okay. They'll get the next one right. They see excitement, and those people are fiercely loyal. And if you come up against those guys, they will attack you like flies on poop. It's brutal. It's a very bizarre world we live in here.
Did anyone ever think that a day would come when I was the calm one on this program?
Well, I don't put up with it. I like to screenshot it and then shame them, after the storm, and I'll clearly tell my viewers that this is what you're hearing, and this is what I'm forecasting, and we'll see if we get a massive snowstorm 3 weeks out, and if we do, then it's sheer luck.
I've learned one thing they do, that if there's one station reporting snow flurries, and of course they lay out these 500-mile zones, but if there's one station reporting snow flurries, we nailed it. Those old farts, they don't know how to forecast long range. They're idiots. I mean, come on, guys, just stop it.
I did go on my husband's account, on his Facebook account last year, and went to one of these sites and what he was saying and stuff, and then just started asking questions like, where are you based out of? What are your credentials? Where did you go to school? What's your degree in? What's your full-time gig and stuff like that? And they didn't like that very much, and eventually I was banned, but I started calling him out on his page for not knowing what he was doing.
Well, and let me just say this too, for those young people that are doing this, that want to work in this field, you think you're going to get a job if you alienate everybody in the weather enterprise, everybody with the weather service and the broadcasters, the private sector, with these idiotic 5-week snowstorm forecasts? You won't get a job. You better stop before people figure out who you are. And I'm telling you, you're going to be blackballed. So fair warning. Stop.
And my class that I'm teaching right now, it's a older crowd for Jamie. It's a non-credit course. And I tell them that in the summertime, the forecast models, they always bring in a Category 5 hurricane 300 plus hours out. And in severe weather season, they always bring in a tornado outbreak 300 hours out. And in the wintertime, they always bring in a nor'easter or a blockbuster snowstorm 7-8 days out. So this is not, this, you just have to pay attention. But all right.
Can we title this show Span in a Padded Room?
All right. So thank you, Will, for sending in that now that we're all preoccupied. Devin sent in he was doing a theories of persuasion class at the University of Memphis and did a paper on increase of social scientists and also used a description which quoted Span. So thank you very much for that. And Ron sent in, the show is fantastic. Listen to the podcast while driving. Over the years, you've had some international guests, and there is somewhat of a regular gentleman from Eastern Europe. I enjoy hearing about international weather scenarios. Perhaps maybe the internationally beloved Brian Peters can help out. Would be fascinating to have someone from Africa or the Middle East as a guest.
I need to go visit Tarmo. That's what I need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Get Tarmo in.
I'll have to see how the WeatherBrains jet is doing.
I haven't seen very many tweets from Tarmo lately. So
no, I haven't. You're right.
Hey, since we're coming to I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna wrap up email real quick unless you wanna add something.
Nope.
Okay. Well, then we're done. No, I'm just kidding. Email at weatherbrains.com. Send in your emails and send us in your guest suggestions, your show suggestions. If you are suggesting a guest, please forward contact information. That would be great. We'd love to hear your emails or your links that you send in. We love those too. Email at weatherbrains.com, and you can find us on the Twitter and the Facebook.
It's funny. I had this pipe dream. We're going to get out almost on time tonight, but here we are bumping up against the news. All right, so let's do picks of the week real quick. My pick of the week, it's a piece from a NOAA site. Water temperatures in the Gulf could give advance warning of summer tornado activity.
Wow.
Interesting little piece, and the link will be up on weatherbrains.com. Brian, what's your pick of the week?
My pick is a favorite of mine, the Boston Globe, the big picture. Actually, I got that because of Kevin, but I love it. And I was looking, and oh my gosh, what a great piece they have, Autumn Brilliance. And autumn is not so brilliant down here, so I really enjoyed their pictures. I think you will find them absolutely mind-boggling.
Awesome. Aubrey, what's your pick of the week?
Ooh. That's a good setup. Mind-boggling. I'm not sure I can follow that. My pick of the week is to follow at Thunder Bay NMS on Twitter, because keep an eye out for tweets this month, because November is known as the deadliest month on the Great Lakes. I love weather history. I don't enjoy the bad things about history, but it should be some really good information. So.
And you're being photobombed by somebody putting on an earplug IFB thing back there. So,
Morgan, you are being broadcast on WeatherBrains.
Is November the month of the Edmund Fitzgerald?
I believe it is.
It is.
I believe it is too.
All right, Kev, your pick's got to be the T-shirt deal.
Yes, it's going to be the T-shirt deal. Find the link on the website or go to my Twitter feed. You'll find it there. There is, like I said there earlier, there's something wrong, but get in there and try and order. I'm in our dashboard now. It says we've only sold 4. Which is fine because it hasn't been promoted on the show yet. But somehow we'll relaunch it. If you're interested in them, we'll put the money toward a good cause. So it's a Teespring, and it's the second-gen WeatherBrains T-shirt.
Awesome. All right. All right, guys. Again, I think I've been the lead story like every night for the last, I don't know, 2 months here.
It's charisma.
It's drought. Goodness, what do you say? It's hot. It's not going to rain.
It's dry.
It's dry. Quit throwing cigarette butts out the window, you boneheads. Hey, WeatherBrains is typically on Monday nights. This was a Tuesday night special. We're typically on here Monday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Most people watch at live.bigbrainsmedia.com. We know most of you listen. We thank you for those that do. If you get a minute, send us an email if something's on your mind. Email at weatherbrains.com. Our social media accounts are on the website along with all the show notes, weatherbrains.com. And iTunes comments, we love those if you happen to listen in that fashion. If you like us, you hate us, just let us know. But we got to wrap it up. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. God bless. Thanks, everybody.
Fabulous.
I got to go. Y'all have a good week.
Have a great night.